Andania Nizam. The Minister of Information, Amran Zabi, renewed the assertion that Syria had never used any chemical weapons in the Ghouta of Damascus or anywhere else, and that it would never do so. He pointed out that there is evidence that the terrorist gangs use such weapons. This appeared through satellite films and other evidence on the ground. The victims of such weapons are witnesses on the terrorist gangs that use chemical weapons. And in an interview with Al Mayadeen TV channel, Mr. Amran Zabi asserted that Syria and its friends have proof that show definitely that the missiles were fired by the terrorist gangs on civilian citizens. These gangs, therefore, are completely responsible for the implications of such crimes. Mr. Zabi asserted that such weapons could not reach the terrorists without the knowledge and involvement of the states supporting the terrorist gangs. An official source said that a number of Syrian soldiers suffered asphyxia when they entered Jorbad in the Damascus countryside as a result of the use of chemical weapons by the terrorist gangs. The source added that the Syrian Arab army entered the area after violent clashes with the terrorists. A storehouse full of barrels of poisonous gas made in Saudi Arabia was captured, containing a large number of anti-gas masks made in America and medical compounds made in the Qatari German company of medical products. The source called attention to the fact that the use of chemical elements by the terrorists reflects their despair under the blows of the Syrian army. The General Command of the Syrian Armed Forces said that the army captured a warehouse in Jorbad containing raw materials used to make chemical weapons, protective masks, and large amounts of antidotes used against inhaling poisonous chemical materials. The existence of these things in the hands of the terrorists is a definite proof of the use of chemical weapons by those terrorists and the involvement of foreign powers in supplying the terrorists with such weapons. The military command added that the use of this dirty weapon by the terrorists against our people and armed forces exposes the bankruptcy of the terrorists under the blows of the Syrian Arab army.
Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Monday, August 26, 2013. I'm Darko. Alright, as you can see, I just wanted to show you there how much problems and issues I was having just covering these two freaking videos. Just two videos, that's it, you know. And just had a bunch of crashes before I get recording. And again, this is to show you how much shit I have to put up with to put these videos up with. So again, not bitching, complaining, just people to know. This isn't just child's play here. This is people that are being killed. Innocent people are being killed, and the U.S., the shrine of democracy and freedom and fucking truth, is lying blatantly. And they're showing evidence of all this stuff that the United States and these free, wonderful, angelic countries are doing. All of the evidence of it. So, with that being said, you'll see propaganda such as this: 355 dead, 3,000 sick in Syria, chemical Texas, aid groups. Doctors Without Borders say patients show neurotoxic symptoms. But, you know, you kind of think, like, it couldn't get any worse as far as disinformation goes. You have, in the alternative news media, people that say that these things never happened, such as Sandy Hook. Or, I'm not saying that it did or it didn't, I'm just saying that this just really confuses the hell out of everybody, especially me, where I'm trying to put the pieces together, because I can't do anything with this. It's just a pile of shit. It's muddied in the waters. So you have to make up your own mind on this. Fake massacre by Syrian army using chemical weapons. So was it fake? Did it happen? Did it not happen? In Egypt, was there protesters? You know, I've seen videos of that. Staging protests. So you don't really know what's going on at this particular point, for whatever it's worth. Accusations that Syria used chemical weapons against logic, says Assad. The statements made by the politicians in the USA and in other Western countries represent an insult to common sense and neglect of public opinion of citizens in those countries. He says it's nonsense. First they bring charges, then they collect evidence. And it's one of those most powerful countries that does it, the U.S. They accused us on Wednesday, and in only 2 days the American leadership announces they started to collect evidence. They accuse our army of using chemical weapons in an area that's reportedly controlled by the terrorists. In fact, there is no precise front line between the army and the insurgents in that area. Lastly, he says, and how can the government or a government use chemical weapons or any other weapons of mass destruction in an area where government troops are concentrated? He says they basically failed at creating this democracy and peace He says the situation here is different compared to one in Egypt and Tunisia. And in Egypt right now, what they're pushing for, possibly, if they don't get regime change, is just a failed state like Libya. And so far they aren't able to do that in Syria. So I keep trying to record this video up, having a lot of issues here. My computer freezing up, the internet freezing up and everything. So this may get cut off prior to the full 15-minute report. So just check out for a second one if this thing crashes. It says here, Syria to allow inspection of alleged chemical weapons attack, and the U.S. rebuffs and says it's too late. U.S. rebuffs Syrian decision to provide UN inspectors access to sites bombed last week. So they're not even going to allow what's going on here. It says the U.S. isn't even going to allow the decision to provide UN inspectors access to bomb sites. So Syria said on Sunday it would allow the UN inspectors to basically go and check out what's going on at the ground zero there. But the U.S. rebuffed Syria's decision, saying the offer came too late to be credible. So the update is, there you have it. The U.S. demand was nothing but a farce, and the second Syria complied, the U.S. says it was never interested in the first place. Kind of like peace, right? Whenever they sit down to have peace talks and stuff like that, they say, oh no, actually we don't want that. Speaking of which, these UN inspectors that have been abducted by these United States, UK, Western NATO-backed terrorists, they're actually carrying out sniper attacks against them. UN inspectors visit the site of the alleged Syria chemical attack despite sniper fire. Of course, they just say sniper fire. They don't say that it's the actual rebels and terrorists that are doing this. So it goes on here, it says here that the UN team was forced to return to the government checkpoint to replace their car, which was deliberately shot at multiple times by unidentified snipers in the buffer zone. So obviously these terrorists have something to hide, don't they? And talking about the man behind the curtain, Israel urges world to take out Syria chemicals. So just like in Iran, basically the Zionists say, okay, everybody else in the world, you bend over and you do our dirty work for us. Zbig Brzezinski, the internationalist, says Syria's strategy is well kept secret. In an interview, he denounces what appears to be imminent military action against the Assad regime. Is he against what's going on in global government and taking them down? No, he isn't. But he has a crafty way of basically advising these, quote, sovereign governments such as the United States, these freedom fighters, what to do. He says, I'm struck how eager Great Britain and France appear to be in favor of military action. I'm also mindful of the fact that both of these two powers are former imperialist colonial powers. So he says here the solution to the upheaval can't be based entirely on military power, nor should it be dependent almost exclusively on Western powers. He says that I think at the minimum Turkey ought to be openly and directly involved if it takes place. Well, they're already involved there, douchebag. Didn't you know that? The Turkish people? No, the Turkish people support the Syrian government in Syria. They don't support their regime basically supporting terrorists and carrying out these acts and atrocities. So when Brzezinski talks about Turkey, he's not talking about the Turkish people, he's talking about the puppets and stooges that people like him put in place. So they don't have to, again, do the dirty work themselves, get their hands dirty with blood. But he says here that he'll never be a puppet of the West, and said Washington had never succeeded in reaching its political aims through war. Well, technically they have, because they've created failed states and they've been able to put in these puppet regimes. But he goes on here and he says the United States should stop interfering in the affairs of other countries and instead listen to the opinion of the people, well, including the United States people and the Syrian people, who both support the Syrian government or do not. Basically, the United States does not support the people, don't support intervention. If someone is dreaming of making Syria a puppet of the West, then this will not happen. We are an independent state. We will fight against terrorism, and we will build relations with whom we want for the good of the Syrian people. Syria says Israel will come under fire if Syria is attacked. A top member of Assad's party warns we have strategic weapons aimed at Israel. And you have to remember these weapons, like we talked about before, these are some very sophisticated weapons, possibly kinetic energy weapons. It says here that they view that Israel is behind the aggression, therefore it will come under fire should they be attacked by the United States. Italy warns against military action in Syria. They warn against military intervention in Syria, urging its international partners to think about it 1,000 times before launching an attack. Remember, Aviano Air Base is there, so that would be an important place to launch from. also, yeah, I think you have Kuwait, but it says here Iraq will not allow its airspace to be used in attacks on Syria. They said, we do not agree to use any of our airspace to attack our neighboring country, says al-Maliki, says our position is fixed on this subject. Turkish base can be used in military campaign against Syria, so yeah, just listen to Brzezinski, right? So if the Western countries basically strike Syria, they said that this base will be ready to go. Well, they're such humanitarians, though, right? They said here that other members of the UN Security Council will have to resort to other means in order to stop the bloodshed in Syria that they're creating. Cyprus base may be used as tension grows over Syria. So Allied commanders may need to use the RAF base in Cyprus for air support should any military action be taken against Syria, says the Daily Telegraph. A Royal Navy nuclear submarine, or power submarine, is said to be in the region, while a number of warships recently left Britain for exercises in the Mediterranean. Well, I thought they were some kind of stupid dispute with Spain. Oh yeah, no, it's a bunch of load of crap, isn't it? U.S. intervention could help Al-Qaeda, you think? So a Syrian expert warns of U.S. military intervention in Syria, says it would only strengthen Al-Qaeda's position in the war-torn country. So just like drone strikes, they know damn well it's going to embolden Al-Qaeda, their little mercenary, private mercenary terror force. The irony is, just like Libya and what they want to do with Syria, running pipelines through there, and Iraq is when they create all of this and use Al-Qaeda and terrorists, they have to be able to go in there right away and be able to put in their puppet regime before the terrorists take hold of the resources. Americans strongly oppose U.S. intervention in Syria and believe Washington should stay out of the conflict, even if it reports that Syria's government used deadly chemicals to attack civilians are confirmed. 60% said that they shouldn't intervene, while 9% said that they should. And 25% Americans would support U.S. intervention if they proved that chemical weapons were used, while 46% would oppose it. Well, since we don't live in a real democracy, it doesn't really matter what the people think. U.S. cannot afford to wait for UN to attack Syria, says officials. The world is a better place when the U.S. takes leadership. This is the time for us to do this. I hope we'll do it soon, the American lawmakers said. This is Representative Elliot Engel of New York. Yeah, look at that, a Democrat. House Foreign Affairs Committee, so where all the liberals, Democrats about Obama are basically, Obama being just as bad as Bush. Neocons, they'd love to hear this. We could even destroy the Syrian Air Force if we wanted to. We have to move, and we have to move quickly. U.S.-sponsored air war in Kosovo seen as precedent for a Syrian war. The change that we got as far as the Bush policy and the war on terror, is drones with ballistic missiles basically targeting civilians instead of having soldiers personally shoot fleeing civilians on the ground. Weighing in an attack on Syria, his national security aides are studying the NATO air war in Kosovo as a possible blueprint for acting without a mandate from the United Nations. So there you go. U.S. forces are ready to act, so that's what Defense Secretary Hagel said. He said they are positioned in the Med and ready to act if Obama orders a strike. The British Navy is ready to launch first strike on Syria. They're planning joint forces with the Americans to launch military action against Syria. We're talking about cruise missile strikes, and right now they're finalizing a list of potential targets. A report saying Israeli, U.S., Jordanian commandos are operating in Syria. This is what they've been training for in the last 12 months. Funny thing is they're operating alongside the terrorists, so there you go. But we're fighting a war on terror. We're talking about the chemical weapons being provided by the Saudis. Saudi Prince Bandar meets MI6 chief on Syria, including the supply of 400 tons of weapons. They include chemical weapons to the terrorists in Syria via, Turkey. There's our buddy Turkey again. They said their mission or goal could not be accomplished without MI6's cooperation. The U.S. is sending Saudi Arabia thousands of cluster bombs despite international ban. It said here that they indiscriminately attack a record number of children, killing them. Mount Hermon. What is Mount Hermon? It's a cluster basically near Syria at the border of Lebanon. It's Israeli occupied right now. I mentioned this. This could be what it's about besides resources and natural pipelines for Qatar, and that they say it's the highest permanent manned UN position in the world. We talked about Babylon in Iraq. It's a vortex or a gateway, gate of the fallen angels. So they say here is a port of entry for a group of wicked angels who corrupted the human race in the days of Noah. Israel has granted oil exploration rights inside Syria, and the occupied Golan Heights has granted these rights inside Syria to Genie Energy. It says here that includes Rupert Murdoch and Lord Rothschild. It's not just about stealing resources, it's about displacing the indigenous, homogenous populations, sovereign nations, and using them as financial slave labor. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.